All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Jira and Nuzzy podcast, episode 5, little NBA edition for you. Pat, how we doing today, my man?
Good. Number five, getting the views and the likes and the subscriptions keep piling up, and we're on show number five. Thank you
Yeah.
again for everybody showing their support.
Yes, thank you as always, you guys. And the NFL season has concluded, and we got to take a little bit different gear here into the NBA season. The trade deadline has just passed. The All Star break is upon us, and that's, as we know, when the NBA season starts to kick into high gear. 82 games is a long, long season. It's a grind, but now we're kind of getting into the excitement of it.
Yeah, just ask LeBron. 82 games is a little much for him.
Yeah, he gets a little tired, a little crampy. I know in his days in Miami. Um, so, talking about the trade deadline, some deals happened, some didn't. Let's start with the one that, of course, we all were hoping would happen, and we're all talking about is the Anthony Davis and the Lakers saga. Anthony Davis is in the second to last year of his contract with the Pelicans. The Lakers obviously have made it no surprise or no secret that they are interested in Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis has made it no secret that he's interested in them. So we got to the trade deadline, we got to the final hour, we got all the talks about maybe this will happen, maybe this will happen, and nothing happened. And what it seemed like to me is that the Pelicans were kind of playing a little game with the Lakers, and more so playing a game with LeBron. We know that there was a tampering charge, if you will, against the Lakers and LeBron for talking to Anthony Davis while they shouldn't have. And it looks like the Pelicans, to me, or at least not just to me, but to ESPN's Brian Windhorst, had said that the Pelicans were just toying with the Lakers and trying to make them, out of sorts and kind of make their locker room a bit, divided. And it kind of worked, Pat, from what
Absolutely.
I saw.
What a fiasco and what a disaster. And absolutely, I think it affected the Lakers. I mean, you see the egg that they laid on the road the other night against the Pacers, where the crowd was kind of having fun with some of the guys mentioned in those trades. And I mean, what a mess the Lakers look like they're in. I think it's a broken locker room. I think some of these guys are probably like, the hell with LeBron. He wants us traded. He doesn't want us here. Why should we go to war for this guy? And I mean, they are a mess. I think the Lakers are one and done in the playoffs this year. I really do.
Well, it definitely looks like the Lakers are playing for future seasons with all this trade talk and basically offering the Pelicans the farm. They offered them Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, Zubac, who was actually traded at the deadline. So that's a piece they won't be able to offer. They offered all of the first round picks you could possibly imagine. They offered Rajon Rondo, Michael Beasley was in there. They literally were about ready to trade everybody but LeBron James to get Anthony Davis. And I actually think me and you might have got a couple phone calls to fill in for those guys because they would have had no roster spots. I mean, it
Jeez.
was,
I mean,
yep.
I've heard some people call it the Herschel Walker trade because I mean the Pelicans were getting back a fortune. I mean, you talk about three very very good starters in Kuzma, Ingram, and
Lonzo
uh,
Ball, yeah.
Lonzo Ball. I mean, those are three quality NBA starters plus picks. I mean, geez, I mean, really, can you really ask for much more?
Well, that's what makes,
Will
yeah,
they be able to get much more than that? I don't know. But I mean,
right.
yeah, I know the Lakers are kind of playing toward the future and building toward the future, but I think you would agree with me if the Lakers are one and done in the playoffs this year. That's a disappointment for LeBron and the NBA too. I mean, that's not looking good. The ratings are down. And I think it's good for the league when LeBron, advances far in the playoffs, and
Well, I
I just don't
mean,
see that happening this year.
absolutely, yeah. And LeBron's been to 8 straight finals, as we all know. And and like I said before, the Lakers are playing for the final 3 years of that LeBron contract. This year is a feel out year. LeBron's chemistry with the young guys and who they can go get. But to me, going back to what Windhorst said and how the Pelicans were just literally trying to have the Lakers show their hand, is to me, it looks like the Pelicans are waiting for Boston. Boston has said that they want AD, they want Anthony Davis in Celtic green. They want him. They want him to be their franchise guy, along with Kyrie Irving, along with Gordon Hayward. Those guys. But the thing is Anthony Davis hasn't really shown a big interest in Boston. So if this deal that the Lakers offered the Pelicans was done a year from now, where Anthony Davis is in the final year of his contract, I feel like the Pelicans would have had no choice but to take it. I mean, in the next 2 years, a year or two, I don't see a better deal being given than the one the Lakers did. Now, what some would say, if the Celtics can offer Tatum, Brown, picks, maybe Terry Rozier, that's a different story. But I just don't see the Celtics just giving all of those guys away. They've shown that they want to keep Tatum. Last trade deadline, they got a lot of offers for Tatum, a lot of offers for Brown. They kept them all. So, I mean, to me, it seems like that it's a two-horse race between Boston and LA going into next year's trade deadline to see who will get them. And maybe in the offseason, the Lakers can get something done, but I personally don't see it until maybe the next trade deadline. I don't know about you, but
yeah, I mean, as of now, both teams, I would consider them failing and really turn this into a fiasco. You got the Pelicans, really run by NFL people, and that franchise. I wonder even if New Orleans deserves a franchise at this point. Attendance is dreadful. It's a poorly run franchise. I mean, you got Seattle fans waiting there. They'd love to have a NBA franchise, and I think they're much more deserving of that, but that's probably for another show. And then the Lakers, Magic Johnson, once again, it's not the first time he's been hit with tampering charges. I know Rich Paul, he kind of got in Anthony Davis's dad's ear and kind of talking a little bit negatively about Boston. I know they're trying to facilitate a move to Los Angeles to the Lakers, but they better get something done here, because right now things are not looking too good for LeBron and the Lakers. And we'll talk about Kawhi Leonard here a little bit too, but starting to hear rumblings he might be going to the Clippers next year. I don't know if you just heard Zabby purchased a $9 or $10 million mansion in Southern California.
Yeah, and Kawhi Leonard, if I had to bet, is going to be in LA one way or another. Whether it's with the Lakers, whether it's with the Clippers, he will be donning an LA jersey of some sort next year. But I want to go to across the country.
He's leaving Drake in Toronto, you think?
I think that's a done deal. I don't know if Kawhi ever really liked Drake. I mean, who does like Drake really outside of his music? But that's a different story. But I want to go across the country here to from LA to Philly in another deal that was made. The Philadelphia 76ers traded for Tobias Harris from the Clippers. He went from the Clippers to Philly for 2 firsts, Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, and another player that escapes me right now, but obviously not one that's really mentionable. And then you have the Raptors, Kawhi Leonard's Raptors, making a deal for Marc Gasol that sent Jonas Valanciunas, CJ Miles, and some picks for Marc Gasol. And those deals were definitely made because the other one was made. The Raptors saw Tobias Harris go to Philly, and the Raptors knew that, okay, we got to get one more. We got to get a 3 or a 4. They need their 4th guy. They got Serge Ibaka, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry. Who are we going to go get? And I think it was an unbelievably great deal for Toronto to get Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol has a lot left for the next year or two in the tank and maybe get them to the Eastern Finals. My question for you is which, and we actually put it on the poll on the site, was what was the better acquisition, Tobias Harris, Marc Gasol? I think Tobias Harris has a slight lead right now. I'm going to have to disagree with that. I think Marc Gasol was the best pickup at the deadline for any team. I just wonder what your input on that was.
I think Toronto probably gave up a little bit more than Philly did to get Tobias Harris. But from a player standpoint, I think Marc Gasol is a better player than Tobias Harris from a track record standpoint. I mean, this guy's been 18-7, 18-8 throughout his career. He's done in the playoffs, and he gives Toronto a legit front court, low post score to complement Ibaka, who's that defensive force that we know about. And you talk about a starting 5 now. The Raptors have with Lowry, Leonard, Ibaka, Gasol. That starting 5 probably as good as any outside of the Bay Area.
Absolutely, and in the Eastern Conference, I mean, the Eastern Conference is as wide open as it's been since LeBron left, in 8 years. So, and to me, and then you look at the Bucks. Actually, I throw another deal in there. The Milwaukee Bucks, who sit at around the top of the East now, they went and got Nikola Mirotic, a sharpshooter,
Very
from
solid
from
player.
New Orleans, from Anthony Davis's Pelicans, and they're going to be right in the mix too. And when these deals were happening, when Tobias Harris went to Philly, I believe he was the first one. I go, man, that puts the Sixers up front, and puts them in the in the driver's seat. And then the Bucks went ahead and got Nikola Mirotic, and I thought, man, that's a great counter. The Bucks look like maybe they might have the slight edge. And then the Raptors go and get Marc Gasol, and I'm like, holy smokes, maybe now I had them at. So it's switching, and there were three huge deals, and you can tell that all three of these teams see the opportunity to get to the finals and hopefully compete with the Warriors or the Rockets if that happens, or another Western Conference team, which probably won't happen. Let's be real, the Warriors are just head and shoulders above everybody when it comes to playoff time. No one's beating them in a 7-game series. You can take that to the bank, but it's going to be an interesting stretch run in the Eastern playoffs and towards the top especially.
Yeah, absolutely. The top three is really shaping up nicely. No one really talks about Milwaukee and their young Greek Jordan, but they're really a franchise of the last couple of years. They're really on the upswing, and they're definitely going to be a force. And it's between Toronto, between Milwaukee, Philly, it's going to be some quality series. And with the Pacers losing their top guy, I think it's really shaping up to be those three teams to take on the Warriors in the finals.
For sure. And then, sticking with the trade deadline deals, and a deal that was made a couple days before the trade deadline, and we had talked about it a lot. And I know you're a European guy yourself, and the Mavs went ahead and got Kristaps Porzingis from the Knicks, who obviously is hurt with that ACL injury, still recovering from that. But they pair him with Luka Doncic, who's been, I think, everybody's rookie of the year this year. I think it goes without saying.
One of the best rookies in a long time, yeah.
Probably an all-star snub at that as well. And he's going to be that. Those two are going to have a lot of years together. And Mark Cuban,
if he's healthy, But not to jump in here, Seth, but this is kind of one of the things that's kind of frustrating with the NBA. The Mavs, with them possibly being out of it, they might shut down Luka the rest of the year because their first round pick is protected not fully. So it's just kind of what's going on in the NBA right now. There are some good young stars, but with LeBron kind of fading away, and you see a lot of teams tanking, viewership's down. I don't know. Does David Stern have to get back in?
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. You're either going for a championship or you're tanking. There's really no in between, unless you're the Miami Heat. That's a different story too. Who love just sticking in purgatory.
They're the new Miami Dolphins. They're that 7-9, 8-8, 7-8 seed. Looks like they're kind of stuck in mediocrity for the next, absolutely. Especially, you talk about this NBA draft with Zion Williams and Barrett being there. This is a chance to really improve your franchise in the draft. So I just don't know what the Heat are doing right now.
Well,
I really don't.
You have the Dwayne Wade tour going on, the one he said he didn't want but clearly wanted. That's another story as well. But I mean, you've done the Hassan Whiteside thing, you've done the Dion Waiters thing, and okay, you maxed out at it. You made the playoffs, you were a 6th seed, and you lost to one of the top 3 teams. What makes you think you're going to do any better than that? You're not. So my trade all these guys. Trade Hassan Whiteside for a bag of rocks. I mean, it doesn't matter. You need to get a high pick. You finally have a pick for the first time in a long time since Justice Winslow. Since you picked Justice Winslow, who they also overpaid for in the offseason. I mean, tank for a guy like RJ Barrett or Zion Williamson would obviously be the best case scenario. But there's a lot of bad teams in the league right now doing that, tanking for that guy. So I mean, but the Heat are just in a purgatory for the longest. I mean,
they really are becoming kind of the Miami Dolphins in a lot of ways. I mean, when we say that, the Dolphins seem like they're 7, 9, 8, and 8 every year, and they're picking between 12 and 20, not picking high enough to get a impact guy, and just kind of stuck in mediocrity, which would kind of segue towards the NFL draft here shortly as well.
Yeah, and I know there's some stuff you wanted to get into. Real quick, my opinion for James Harden. He's got 26 straight games with 30-plus points. Do you think this is something that's super impressive or something that's just, Harden's taking 1,000 shots a game?
Maybe I'm the old grouchy guy now, and maybe I'm too old school, but it's just, it's a different league. Obviously defenses aren't, it's not really good defense is being played in the NBA anymore. I mean, you see scores of 140 to 126, a common thing. But not to take that away from Harden. I mean, the guy is a big-time scorer. He's a big-time player, but it just doesn't really impress me nowadays, to be honest with you.
All right, so I'll have to on the contrary to that. I look at it and not comparing James Harden to Kobe Bryant by any means, but I look at it as a Kobe Bryant year. Kobe Bryant scored 81 in that game against the Raptors, and he had guys like Smush Parker around him, and Lamar Odom was his best teammate. But Chris Paul was hurt. Clint Capella has been out for a long time. I mean, there's nobody else really on that team that can go one-on-one and make these shots, and he's been keeping them in it by doing what he's doing, scoring 30-plus points a game for 26 straight games. To me, he's a top 5 player in this league right now, and he's been a top 5 player in this league
absolutely.
for the last couple of years. And I personally have been the guy that said, all this guy does is travel and draw fouls. So that's all I've been saying. And he does do that. He does travel. He does draw fouls. But this is just an impressive run for me. I mean, I've definitely flipped the script on my opinion with James Harden over these last 2 months, and the way he's been playing has just been unbelievable, and something we might not see for a while, just because of the whole the way teams are being built now. With the stacking of the teams. You're either a stacked team or you're a team that's playing for a lottery pick. We might not see this for a long time. So
definitely not to take anything away from just saying it's it's a different league, but that's we'll continue to talk more NBA, especially down the stretch.
Sure. So I know you're itching to get into your draft stuff, but let's do a little before we get into your top 5 picks of your NFL draft. We've been talking about the NBA and what we think our top 5 players are, and I guess I'll go and start. Top 5 players in the league right now for me. You look at a guy, number 5 is Giannis Antetokounmpo. This guy, the Greek Freak, has been. I mean, he came out of nowhere. I mean, he was a late round pick. He's made the Milwaukee Bucks a contender. People are playing around him. Eric Bledsoe, those guys, Chris Middleton, they want to come play with him. So he's my number 5 at the moment. Number 4, I got Anthony Davis when he's healthy, when he decides to actually play a full season. There's nobody that is a stat stuffer like Anthony Davis. Number 3, as much as I can't stand him off the court and during his interviews, Kevin Durant, the snake himself, I have at number 3. Number 2 is James Harden, who we talked about before, just playing out of his mind right now, keeping the Rockets relevant, keeping the Rockets in the playoff hunt, and we'll make the Rockets go deep in the playoffs, I believe. And number 1, who until he retires, it's kind of like a Brady thing in the NFL, is obviously LeBron James, is the best player in the world, best player ever in my opinion. Another topic for another show, as we said before. So I was wondering what your take on the top 5 for the NBA was.
I won't necessarily do it in order, but I'll definitely give you my top 5. You say his last name better than I do, but I'll go with the Greek god himself. I mean, talk about what he's done in such a short time, and he's made the Bucks a relevant franchise, an exciting franchise, and really probably the favorite in the East right now to come out of there. So I'd put him in my top 5. I'd have to keep Steph Curry in there, along with his teammate Kevin Durant. And then I'd go James Harden, and you still have to have LeBron in there. And just to kind of cheat a little bit, I go with a 6-man. I'm a big Kawhi Leonard fan from an all-around standpoint. I mean, the guy can score, he can rebound, pass the ball, handle, plays good defense. It's kind of a modern-day Scottie Pippen, and big fan of his. So
he really is. It was tough for me to keep Kawhi Leonard and Steph Curry out of there, but I just looked at total body of work for my top 5, and I had to throw Anthony Davis in there because when healthy, there's not many guys better than him. Just Harden and LeBron.
Anthony Davis is a phenomenal player and a phenomenal talent. Stat-wise, he's one of the best big men, in a long time. But like to see a little bit more production from a team standpoint, winning. So that's why I kind of keep my top 5 for right now.
That. So let's shift gears. We definitely are going to do a lot of NFL draft stuff coming up, as we've been saying. We want to give you just a quick little preview. Pat's got his top 5 picks for his first mock he wants to share, and then we'll go from there as far as future shows with the NFL. So Pat, I know you wanted to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get right into it. I guess we'll go number 1, Arizona. Think the Cardinals, it's still a fluid situation. Things could change. Trade is even possible, though not
Right,
likely.
assuming no trades happen, or obviously you can't make trade assumptions for your mocks. It's you can't do it. So that will
Right,
end in that.
not at this point. So I think it's really between two guys, if I had to say right now, and those two guys are Josh Allen from Kentucky and also Nick Bosa from Ohio State, two pass rushers. It's a little bit different players. Josh Allen's a little bit more complete. He can drop back in pass coverage, play the pass. Bosa's kind of more of a pure pass rusher. I think Allen fits the 3-4 scheme a little bit better than Bosa, though Bosa could certainly play in the 3-4. But as of right now, I'm going to go with Allen number 1. Again, things can change. The combine's coming up. Bosa has a great combine, shows he's healthy. He probably jumps ahead of him again. But right now, the way Josh Allen finished the season, 3 sacks in that bowl game versus Penn State. I mean, he finished his season on fire. So I'm gonna go with him going number 1, and then the 49ers sitting at 2. Just be absolutely ecstatic to see Bosa on the board when they pick. Pass rusher is by far the biggest need on the 49ers. You talk about they have DeForest Buckner inside, tremendous player, but they really have nothing outside. Consider Cassius Marsh was your leading sack guy from the edge position. So
you got to definitely improve on that. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and Bosa fits that Leo position perfectly, kind of like a end outside linebacker hybrid. Again, if he's healthy, he's an elite player. I know we're gonna really debate about him as the draft gets near. Probably do a whole show debating him. I know you have your thoughts about him, but I think the guy's legit. I think he's a big time player. He was a number 1 high school player coming out. Goes to Ohio State as a true freshman. Plays significantly, puts up 4 or 5 sacks. Then as a sophomore, really was a factor. And then, of course, last year's junior year was cut short by the leg injury. But when he's healthy, he's legit. So I have him going number 2 to the 49ers. Then the Jets at 3 take the big defensive tackle from Alabama, Quinnen Williams, who's as good of a defensive tackle as I've seen. I mean, coming out, talk about Aaron Donald. He's right up there with Aaron Donald.
Is the best defender in our league right now. So,
yeah, this kid is legit. He's a 315, 320-pound cat quick DT. Can rush the passer. I believe he had 8.5 sacks at Alabama as a redshirt sophomore. Plays the run. If you watch his film too, he's double teamed basically every play, and you see 2 guys going backward. He busts double teams as good of any defensive tackle I've really seen coming out since I've been studying the draft. He's even being talked about as a possible number 1 pick. That's how good he is. He's a force. And you got the Raiders at 4, who are kind of like the 49ers, who really need a pass rusher. They lost a guy you might be familiar with, Sab, Khalil Mack.
Yeah. He's definitely been a menace in the Bronco, thorn in the Bronco side for years, and I was definitely happy to see him go. Even though they did get 2 firsts or whatever it was for him, you would have gave him 5 firsts if you asked me, as long as Khalil Mack wasn't rushing around the edge on our quarterbacks in that division. Mike Mayock's first pick as the Raiders GM be interesting.
Well, yeah, it's still I think John Gruden's running things, but yeah, absolutely Mayock's gonna be involved, and that's a fun storyline to watch too going forward. Seeing Mike Mayock and the Raiders front office, I know we're gonna miss him on the NFL Network doing the draft.
Yes, for sure.
He's been so great, so definitely gonna be missed. But the Raiders, 3 first-round picks, a lot of multiple mid-round picks too, so they're going to be very active during the draft. And at number 4, I think they go with an edge rusher, defensive end as well, Kid Farrell from Clemson. Another guy who's been really productive day one for probably the Clemson's best defensive player on that national championship team. Good size, good length, can rush the passer, also good versus the run. I like him more than the kid from Michigan and Gary at this point just because of the production. So I have him going 4, and then 5. Tampa rounds up top 5, and this is a defensive draft. If you like defense, this is the draft for. You talk about the edge rushers, the DTs, some secondary guys. This is a defensive heavy draft, and I think the first 5 guys are defensive players. Number 5, I'm going to have Greedy Williams going to Tampa Bay. Long line of LSU corners coming out, going back to Patrick Peterson, White, ton of, LSU's kind of become DBU recently. So I have him going 5 to Tampa Bay.
All right. So there you have it. Patrick's first top 5 mock for this year's draft. We'll definitely be going more on that in our next show. We definitely
we'll post our mock draft too, our full mock draft before next Friday's show as we start doing our NFL Draft Friday shows.
Yep, so we'll post those up before the show, and then we'll definitely dig into it, talk about why and how we have those guys at those spots in the draft, and definitely want to continue doing NBA on Tuesday. We'll throw in another NBA show, and with the Super Bowl and everything, we kind of got off track a little bit as far as the days go, but next Tuesday, throw a little NBA at you, and then, like we said, NFL Draft Fridays. For sure. We thank you guys as always for the support. Make sure you're going and liking the Facebook page if you haven't already, Jira Nuzzy Podcast. We are on Twitter at Jira Nuzzy, and the YouTube page is Jira Nuzzy Podcast. So I think we're up to like 20 subscribers right now, which is pretty cool. You could just like and subscribe to that. It's totally free. If you have a Gmail account, just sign in, hit the subscribe button, and you're all set. We thank you guys as well. For all the views and all the likes, and we will see you guys on Tuesday, if not sooner, depending on our, how we feel here. We'd love to do a show every day if we could. We definitely want to do more shows more frequently in the future. So we thank you guys again, and we'll catch you guys next time. Pat, always a pleasure, my man. Talk to you soon.